Hey yo! Alright, hello,
Heyo.
the supporters of the Never Say Dice Patreon. I am the Never Say Dice. Um, uh, here for just another little podcast chat for Sharn Nights After Dark. The episode we just concluded was the first of our little spin-off series, Sharn Nights The New Hires. And I think the two guests here can attest that probably the most fun we've had playing D in a hot minute.
It was fucking hilarious.
It was
bananas.
It was bananas. It was not, it wasn't peak acting. It was not amazing,
Speak for
combat.
yourself.
Well, it was pretty good acting.
I bring my A game every session.
But I think all of us, into our own degrees, even our mods, cried at some point. We were laughing. It was a lot of fun. And so now it has been 2 weeks since our last one, so now we're here for our second episode of Sharn Nights After Dark, which we're going to have some related topics to some of the things that we experienced tonight. But of course, you have seen some familiar faces, Jacob and Austin playing the camp. And we might, talk about the Sharn Nights campaign itself. They can talk about Cornelius and Donovan if they so wish. We can talk about the new characters we made. We can talk about some other campaigns I think one of the topics we talked about last week of how you make characters, Jacob has answered that question, but Austin has not had the chance to participate in such a discussion. And I've known Austin for a long time. Played D&D with Austin for a long time. His character creation process, it is wild. It varies wildly from character to character, and it is typically deeply rooted in something. So, I know that there's no concrete way for how you make characters, but you can either use like Donovan or Alexander as your basis, or kind of talk about what generally inspires you for character making process. So, leave it up to you.
So, I guess like I'll talk a little bit about the two characters I played for Sharn, and maybe a little bit about the characters I haven't. It's like for Alexander, it was one of those things where I had this concept in my head. So like right at the end, after I used a couple of my abilities, everybody kind of figured out, oh, you're a Chronergy wizard. The idea that I had in my head was like, okay, I want to play a Chronergy wizard, but it started out as like, I want to play an ice mage. And I was like, how am I going to accomplish that? Because like you can play Evocation Mage, or you can play an Evocation Wizard or whatever, or you can play a sorcerer of like a dragon blood like one of the dragon sorcerers that has cold as its primary thing, or what have you. But I thought, but like there's not a lot of ice spells and stuff, and there's not anything that's really like ice oriented. Like you've got a couple of subclasses so far that have come out that are really fire oriented or lightning oriented, with like like the Tempest Cleric and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, Chronergy Wizard, and this is how I'm going to approach it. The idea of slowing things down and speeding them up. And this is what I was talking about during the session, Jacob and Logan. I know, Logan, you and I have talked about it a little bit. How I explained it to Carson was this. Instead of it being about freezing things with elements or burning things with elements, it's about manipulating particles. Alexander is essentially a physicist, not just a wizard. Like the idea is that he uses that like the ice that he would create with spells, or the fire that he create, the concept of him slowing things down or pushing things forward, speeding them up and stuff. Or like manipulating time isn't literally him manipulating time. It's him manipulating physics in a way that kind of like it screws with your perception. Like whenever he turned invisible, how I explained that how I flavored it as like he was kind of getting blocky and stuff before he just vanished. He's manipulating the particles in the area around him to the point where they're moving so quickly you can't see him. Like it's undeterminable by the naked eye. And so it's like, that's how I created Alexander. All the rest of the stuff about Alexander was stuff where I was just like, okay, what kind of person do I want him to be? What little bits and pieces about him? One of the things that we talked about at the beginning, he has a sister, and that plays a lot into the kind of person he is. And his sister might be a character I play later on, because I have a character sheet for her and everything. But but then like you've got Cornelius. Cornelius was a character idea that I've been sitting on for a super long time, and it basically boiled down to psychic detective. And so going with the at this point we know he's a Kalashtar and he's a great old one warlock and stuff. The idea of being able to see into people's minds, manipulate their minds and stuff. But it's like I wanted there to be something else about him. The original concept for Cornelius was that he was a person that, because of what happened to him, that caused him to become, because he's not initially Kalashtar, spoilers. What happened to it? Like there's something that happened that caused him to become what he is now, both racially and as well as his class. And one of the things I originally said was that he was going to be someone who was mentally, emotionally, and physically incapable of experiencing intense emotions. That kind of went out the door a little bit, but I guess I kind of interpret it now as just like there is like a looming emptiness there as opposed to like a lack of emotion. But it's kind of basically that. I sometimes it comes from, I have an idea of a vision of a person I see in my head, and sometimes it's hugely influenced by media and like whatever media I consume. One of my favorite characters I've ever played is a wizard I've played. His name is Kairos. He's an evocation wizard. He's a Triton, things like that. The initial basis for Kairos was actually from Destiny, the Stormcaller warlock, which is all centered around magic, like lightning magic, essentially. And so I was like, I want to make a storm wizard. I want to make a storm mage, but I made him an evocation wizard because, well. And then I was like, well, what if he's a noble, and what if he came from a family that doesn't traditionally look highly upon arcane casters? And it just kind of snowballs from there. It usually starts with a concrete, like it's almost like a little like solid heart to it, and then it just spider webs based on how I'm feeling, more or less, and like what I'm watching or what I'm playing. Almost every character I've ever made is always influenced by what I'm doing at the time. Another character, Yamamura, is based off of a character of the same name. I actually made him that name because I based off a character of the same name from Bloodborne, who is Eastern inspired in a world of Western Gothic in Victorian inspiration. My first major character with Logan and with 5th edition in general, Mataris, was originally based off of a mix of concepts, and one of which was from Demon Souls, and then eventually, as he developed, became hugely influenced by Reinhardt from Overwatch. Just there's a ton. It's every little thing that goes on around me has a little influences on bits and pieces of how my character is, and then eventually I go and I will develop kind of like a vision of who that person is and what they're like, and then I just determine their personality from there.
Brings us perfectly, perfect soft landing into the main thing we're going to talk about today, which is role-playing character. And that's something you hear all the time, how to roleplay, and it's typically the advice I give for NPCs especially, most of the time, is finding a character that you have read about or seen on TV, seen in a movie, or played in a video game, and just taking that personality and saying, this NPC has that personality. Done. And naturally your own influences and things will manipulate that to where it is likely not recognizable. Same with, a specific role an actor plays in a specific movie or TV show. Say, I really want to encompass a specific actor in this. That'll hugely influence your NPC, and it takes a lot of the weight off of I have to create the perfect personality for this character. And like you said, even making your own player characters, it's perfectly fine to starting off a character being well, I want to just emulate this character, actor from this thing. Just go with that, and it'll take on your own meaning in it as you that character. And I think all of us have felt that in playing in Vocal Saints Camp. It is all hugely influenced by the games you're playing at the time, the TV shows you're watching, the movies you've seen. And even though we recognize, oh, that's a thing from this video game, yes, that's true, but it takes on a different meaning to our characters and to the world at
It's
so it's
like
the basis.
yeah, like Roran's hammer being inspired by the Warhammer universe, or your both Anguish and Lazarus's blades being inspired by Destiny, and just the list could go
Yeah,
forever. And
forever.
it's since it's been going on, since the campaign's been going on for like 2 years now, 3 years now. There's like a million different things that have happened in between those spans of time, and it's all over the place.
And you could listen to any creator talk about the things they create, a writer, a musician, an artist, and it's always about copying from what you admire, taking elements from it and putting it into your own thing. It's everywhere. So even when making your own character, you have this idea of like, they're going to be this cool character. First off, no, they're not. They're going to be something from something you've watched recently, something you've experienced recently. But through
That's okay, though.
Yeah, that's okay, because through your lens of creating that character, it is going to take on a new shape, a new character that is yours and specific to you. And now that's going to bring us perfectly into what we're going to talk about is how we roleplay those characters, how we get into those characters. We've made jokes in the Sharn Nights group about, because whenever we start playing, we load up the group video call, and of course we need time to set up, so people will log in and mute their mic and camera and go get set up. But we've made jokes about Carson, we love him so dearly, that
he's alright.
Yeah, he's fine, he's okay. That he mutes his video and microphone, because he's usually pretty early to the call, but will mute and be gone. To the point that he's late to the call. And we crack jokes that he's off screen doing his own like vocal warm-ups and acting warm-ups and whatever other kind of dumb bullshit we joke. But it turns out it's kind of true. He does do a few vocal warm-ups. He'll say his character's name, doing his accent. And I think a lot of people do that. I know for certain that Matt Mercer spends half of his time doing character accents and monster sounds. If you've watched any of his, any combats where he introduces a new, unfamiliar monster, he has to have practiced those sounds. If you've watched,
so quickly.
Yeah, it's quick, off the cuff. He's practiced it. Same with, this is a fun one that I really love, the infamous video of him doing the wine cork sound, and then the pouring of the wine sound, and the table just stares at him like, where did that come from? Because it's so perfect. He's practiced that. He's gifted. By God, he's gifted. But he practices. So, again, leading into what we're talking about, practicing sounds and voices and things, we all do it. You gotta do it. You can't just do it off the cuff and be good at it. So, yeah, also saying said no.
No.
So, we'll start with Jacob, because Austin just talked about his character stuff. We'll give him a break. Jacob, what are some of the rituals that you do to get into character? What are some of the things you sort of fixate yourself in to get character and to get into the act of roleplay whenever you play a team?
So, I don't I did do some acting and things in college and high school. I don't consider myself to be incredibly proficient at acting. But I kind of take the philosophy with role playing where like you said, you got to do prep work, and kind of my before, at least for Sharn, my before stream prep is I eat. I normally have some coffee, and I think about. I like to think about what my character would be doing in their off time, what is your character doing when the cameras aren't on, what are they doing when the focus is not on them. And a lot of times for other kinds of characters, I don't have this for Donovan yet, but I would have a specific show or kind of media that I would consume to kind of think about what kind of vibe I'm going for. Because I remember whenever we were doing like Adventurers Guild stuff, before I would play my character Ferris, I would watch this Robin Hood TV show and kind of like get into that kind of mindset. And I think that doing that kind of gets you in like the right like headspace to be like, this is how I'm gonna act. I'm not gonna just be myself. I'm gonna like try to approach things differently. And it was funny you mentioned like voices. Not definitely you don't have to do voices, but I like it. It's more fun for me because if I talk like in my own voice, it's harder for me not to be like, oh, I'm just Jacob right now. But it's also like, I don't want to do a really shitty accent. I want to do one that's like kind of good, or not like amazing, but just one that just like doesn't sound like I'm just doing a really bad accent. And I think I've talked about this before. For Austin's campaign, I have a character with a British accent, so I watched videos on how to speak with more of a more authentic British accent. And like I watched videos like linguistic videos. It's like, this is how you should say your A's, this is how you should say your T's, and things like that. And like, I don't know if that made like a considerable difference, but for me, it felt like it did.
It's enough,
just to, like know like the rules.
Enough of a change from your normal speaking voice to get you in headspace of the character and like
because it was just like
shoes.
Small stuff.
Yeah,
it was like small stuff, just like how like in an American accent, it's like I'm going to take a bath. It's like a very like with British accents, there's no sound really. It's all like go take a bath, go down to the park, but like shit like that. And just like small stuff like that is for me was like, oh, like yeah, that's how I can make this sound like I'm not a really stupid American trying to sound British. Which I mean I am and I do, but oh well. It made me feel better.
Yeah.
But just like doing like some mundane rituals for me like help me feel like I'm, and this is also really dumb, but I always like to, I don't have like a dice set for every specific character, but I always feel like I have to pick like a of like the right set that correlates with the character I'm playing. Like in my brain I have like this is this character's color set, so I have to make sure I pick something like a set that like matches that.
True.
Which is like, I'm not one of those people that has a dice set for every character I play, because some characters I honestly am like, I like them, but I don't care enough to spend money on them.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But like,
Rough.
it be like that. I did just, at the time of this recording, I did just order 3 sets because I got some money for my birthday. So that's exciting.
Nice.
I have a new set coming for Julian, and I have a old set that I'm repurposing for Donovan.
The character that we said is only going to be around for a few sessions. You bought.
It's a dice that I wanted anyway.
All right.
Yeah. Might as well.
So, Austin, for the same question over to you, what are some of the things that you do to make it easier to slip into character, to maintain a role, things of that nature?
I also just say coffee over and over again. I go coffee.
Coffee.
The paper.
The paper. I mean, I same deal. I have limited acting experience. I am no way would I consider it proficient, but I picked up a few. Like I learned a little bit, and so similar deal. Preparation is key, just like across the board. And if you really want to do something like that, and for me, here's where the fun part begins. I talk to myself all the time. Like,
I did that too. I did that today. I was just like trying to be like, yes.
100%. I spend like 70% of my day like daydreaming and talking to myself. Like the people at work, whenever if I ever have to work a dish shift and it's not super busy, I'm just walking around talking to myself. And if anybody walks past me, they probably think I'm a loony. Because
a loony.
What I'll do is kind of like I don't like watch linguistics videos, but I'll like think about I'll think about somebody that I've heard like whether it be a character from a movie, a game, a show, like an anime or whatever, or somebody that I've spoken to, like an accent of somebody that I know maybe, or somebody that I've met before, even if I don't know them super well. And I will try to basically, I just do the thing where I just throw myself at the wall until something kind of sticks. And there's a couple of things that are a little bit easier because I took. It's funny because my French accent is my worst accent now, but I took French classes when I was younger.
French accents are hard.
Dude, I took French classes when I was younger, and I was actually pretty damn good at it, like at developing the accent and the way that you're supposed to speak and enunciate things. And I kind of just lost that over the years because I stopped using French, because I mean I don't really have a use for it here in podunk United States. But I will long drives, long shifts of work, sitting in my apartment being restless when I if I'm even if I'm doing something, sometimes I'll just get up and be like, okay, I'm too restless to sit down and do this thing. I will walk around and I will daydream about things that my character are doing, or I imagine them doing, or maybe even hope a situation I hope they'll be in, stuff like that. And I will talk to myself. I will try to put myself in the self of the character. One of the ones that I kind of morbidly do sometimes about my characters is I will imagine the scenario kind of like the way that they go out, if you catch my
The
meaning on
heroic
that.
last stand.
Yeah.
I've definitely had the same kind of
the character that I'm most guilty of that is with Mataris, because I mean, lawful good, protective paladin guy, 100%. If anybody that I have ever played in my life is gonna go the self-sacrifice route, it's gonna be that guy. But that's what I do. I'll just sit and I will talk to myself until it feels right, I guess. And that's how I'm able to, and I'll let myself become that person. That's how I'm able to, for example, when I'm running Karimia with you guys, that's how I'm able to slip into fucking Creed like that. I can slip into, hey brother, how's it going? You guys been doing great? I'm doing great. You wanna?
No, fuck you.
You wanna help me out a little bit?
No.
I can switch into fucking Creed mode like that because I've just
home, you gray bastard.
Yeah, I've just talked to myself as Creed 1,000 times. I've done the same thing as Kairos. I can switch into Kairos's voice like that because I've been doing it for so long. The problem that I usually have now, though, is that I have a harder time letting myself do that in front of people now.
Yeah.
Because
I was gonna bring up a point close to that when you were done.
Because prior to a particular session that we had ages ago, it feels like now, I kind of hear what I hear from my perspective as the person saying things, but I have some a little bit detached on the self-image kind of department. When we did that AG session with the new group, with Garrett and all them, and Jacob, you and I were at Bradley and Aaron's, and I could hear my voice through Aaron's microphone. And what I heard myself saying from my perspective and what I heard coming through Aaron's microphone were very different, and I didn't like it. I was like, that is not what I want to sound like. That is not what I'm trying to sound like. And so I'm kind of you'll notice that when we play, when we're, if I'm playing as Cornelius, there are a lot of times where I try to go with the Brooklyn accent thing going on and keeping that going, but it just,
hey, forget about it.
Yeah, I'll slip out of it because I get self-conscious about it. But
I have the hardest time staying in I'm gonna talk like this as Donovan. I gave up on that. It's hard to keep that going just because I have to think about how I'm gonna say it so I don't get my point across, and it's a whole lot of mental gymnastics. So I've just been I'm just not gonna worry about it.
But I did learn something that I've learned, thanks to what I study in school now, is that same thing with the preparation thing. It is the weird. It's kind of weird to me. It might not be that weird to other people, but it's a little weird to me. Recording myself. because that's what I have to do for my studies. Like, if I am practicing something or working on excerpts or working on my audition pieces or working on my recital pieces, I'm gonna hear problems from here while I'm playing, but I can't hear it. I can't necessarily always hear what's coming out of the bell because it's coming from my perspective and not from the outside perspective, and that's kind of what I'm starting to sort of do when it comes to like developing characteristics of how I speak.
Oh, sometimes I go watch our streams and be like,
like I'm going back and I'm basically trying to do my best to instill that into because I mean, truth be told, I've got like a long list of dream jobs, and number 2 on that list is to be a voice actor. And so like I'm starting to try to apply what I'm studying when it comes to music to things like this, because it'll make it more fun for the stream, and it'll make it more fun for me if I feel like I'm actually doing a good job at doing something just because I want to do it for fun. But also, it's kind of something I want to try to do with myself in the future, and so, you know, why not try to get better at it?
And the voice is an instrument, and if it's not singing, voice acting is still musicianship to a degree.
Yeah,
all applies. So,
also, for anybody watching this that doesn't know me too well, I can talk and talk and talk forever, and I'll probably say the same thing like 100 times in like 100 different ways. So,
don't apologize for art.
That means you'll remember it.
Yeah.
So,
I think.
The last sort of question, talking about getting into character and playing a role, something that crops up in every form of RPG ever, even it's baked into the mechanics of D&D, is playing the role of the healer, the spellcaster, the thief, the face, the infiltrator, the fighter, the tank, the DPS person. It's, you know, baked into the DNA of RPG. But as I've talked about this before, I've talked about it in some of my other Patreon streams. One of the things I wanted to do with this Sharn Nights stream, and I'm going to take the pedestal here for a second because this is something I am passionate about. Whenever I was formulating Sharn Nights, one thing besides just playing Eberron, I love the Eberron setting, but I specifically wanted to play an urban campaign. I long to play an urban campaign. And the City of Towers was the perfect stage for this kind of thing. But one of the things I specifically wanted to do is I've seen in multiple places that if you don't want combat, don't play D&D. And I'm fine with that. There are some great, like, systems out there that are perfect for the things we're doing. Awesome. But one thing I wanted to do is there are so many shadowy corners of the D&D mechanic that don't get used very often that I wanted to take and shine a light on. There are so many, like, I wanted to take D&D and push it and stretch it to its limits because there's so many things about it that don't get used in a normal game. And so the premise of this campaign being an urban, you know, mystery, entry kind of campaign, I wanted my players to utilize those classes and subclasses and spells and abilities that don't get used very often and apply them. Or, like some of them have done, take unusual classes and apply them to an urban thing. So, like, being a cleric or being a druid. We almost ended up with like 3 druids in this spin-off series. Which I would have loved. It would have been so much fun. And so I'm a huge proponent of fuck having player character roles. Fuck that shit. In Austin's campaign that we've talked about, we were playing a pretty gritty campaign for the most part when it comes to grand story things. And truly, I am playing one of the most under-optimized characters I think I've ever made. Just because I've, like, multi-classed in weird ways, the multi-classes don't click, I have spells that I don't use, that I'm never going to use, but I memorized and stuck with them, and so it's like... But I'm having so much fun with that character because it's a character I like playing, and so I am a huge proponent of fuck the roles. Fuck that shit. Don't feel like you have to have a well-rounded party because you want. And it's on the DM to make sure that it's catered to. If you don't have a healer, make sure they have access to healing potions. If they can't identify spells or like items and things, if they don't have the identify spell or detect magic, give them that kind of stuff. Give them access to that. Ugh. Huge proponent of that kind of stuff. And I'm going to pass on to the other two DMs here because I have said my piece. I try to do it as much as I can in Sharn Nights to give you guys freedom to play what you want and to have fun and run with it. So it's up to you.
That's 100% agree.
I'm
because,
sweating
like,
right now. I was getting so hyped up about that. I'm sweating.
I mean, if you look at our current party in Sharn Nights, Warlock, Monk, Bard, Artificer, Wizard. We have, like, before Alan, we had no brute force.
Oops, all spellcasters.
Hell, even
and the thing is, like,
even before Donovan, it was literally 2 warlocks, a wizard, and an artificer. It's like, okay, charisma, intelligence, and not a drop of wisdom between us, or any physical combat capability.
And so I was like, I completely agree. Like, if you have a campaign you're starting, if you end up with like a party full of bards, like, roll with it. Do whatever.
That's a story.
They're a rock band.
Oops, all hunters.
Literally, just as I've started DMing, my biggest thing is I want to cater to my players. Like, of course, I'm gonna do some things for me, but like, I wanted to cater a story where each of them can have moments where like, oh, this feels like something that I'm really good at that's important to me. And if that means that it's a horribly balanced party, like you said, give them more potions, balance the encounters. That's fine, and that's amazing. And what I was gonna say whenever I thought of this, like talking about roles, what you said about not being like combat focused stuff, just like, because there's so much more to D&D than fighting, and I feel like we miss out a lot. At least I know for me, I think about D&D and I'm like, I have to make sure my character can fight. But the thing is, there's so much more value to characters that have some other utility besides fighting. And gonna put on my weeb pants real quick. Anyone who knows me knows I love One Piece. Favorite thing ever. In that manga, there are characters that can fight, and there are characters that can fight, but not very well. But story starts. Luffy wants to be a pirate captain. He doesn't even have a boat. He doesn't even know how to sail. So it doesn't matter how strong or good of a captain he is. He's worthless. He can't do anything. And that's the thing. Like, he can fight, but on a boat in the middle of the ocean, you can't fight the ocean to go where you want to go. And you take a character like Nami. She's the navigator. And she can't fight as well as like Luffy or Zoro, but she's just as valuable because she can go, oh, here's a map and a compass. We need to go that way. And D&D, see, it came around. I knew what I was doing. The thing is, in D&D, you need to think. I feel like people need to start thinking that same way. Where, like, yes, I'm playing a rogue, and I can't really. My con is really bad, and my strength's really bad, and like I can fight a little bit, but I built this character to disarm traps and sneak around. It is a thief. I don't do a lot of fighting. I just steal things and try to keep my distance. Or like, I'm playing a bard, and my character is purely meant to heal and inspire and support, and I am not good at fighting. Like, doing stuff like that, I feel like is super interesting, and can be really fun to roleplay. Because, like you said in Sharn, like, not everything is resolved with fighting. We've used some dumb spells to try to figure out shit instead of just brute forcing our way through things, which I think that people just need to make characters less about how well they can fight and make characters more so about like being good and really, really bad at things. But take the weeb pants off. Go ahead and say what you're gonna say. I have something else about like being bad at things, but
yes, I love having and that's more of a role playing thing. Like, no one wants to be bad whenever they play D&D. Like, it sucks to roll low on things. Austin, we know.
I roll low.
I also roll low all the fucking time. But it helps me.
You guys stay over there.
We'll keep our karma over here. But it's nice having a negative stat because it helps you role play. I specifically, like, whenever, for Jacob's campaign, I rolled very well for my stats. I'm like, no, dump intelligence. Because then that, like, it just helps me play the character. If I don't have a bad stat, I'm like, well, what am I gonna do? Like, how am I
Because
gonna
that's
roleplay this?
hilarious to roleplay,
It's
and it can
fun.
be really funny. People underestimate how important it is for D&D to be funny. Like,
That's
literally,
supposed to be
you
fun.
can be the most badass fighter in the world, but if you can't, like, say, like, you're just not very smart, or, like, your wisdom is really bad, so you don't know how to get around, shit's hilarious.
Oh my gosh. One of the things I was gonna say is, and in Sharn, oops, all spellcasters who all have, like, utility spells and stuff. That means, one, when combat does happen, and sometimes it is inevitable, that means it will be interesting because it's harder, because you don't have, you know, a fireball at your disposal just to nuke the entire battlefield. And that also means the utility spells you do have, you can get creative with in how you use them. One of my favorite things I ever tried doing, it's a character I got to 3rd level with and I was done. It was an Eldritch Knight. The only, like, you know, Eldritch Knights are limited in their spellcasting by the Prestidigitation cantrip, which is a out-of-combat utility spell typically used to clean yourself up or to light a candle. But in combat, I asked the DM and I was like, it says I can create a spark of, a harmless spark of light, like a little firework, like a magician. And I asked, could I throw my hand into the person I'm in melee with and cast Prestidigitation and create a spark and create a flashbang as my action and blind them for however long? And, like, that's something I never thought about until I was like, you can use utility spells for combat purposes? What?
It's all about
Crazy.
being creative.
It's all about being creative. And to also speak on the idea of D&D supposed to be fun and, you know, whatever else. Of course, this is just a knockoff of Adventuring Academy right now. But something they said in Adventuring Academy that really stuck with me was they were speaking to no, it may have actually been in DM's Guild. I truly don't remember at this point. I listen to a lot of podcasts about D&D. The person had
Nerd.
asked, like,
You're on one right now.
I know, I'm on one right now. At what point do you start drawing? They had, I've forgotten his name from NADPOD. He plays Beverly.
Is it Jacob?
No.
Is that his name? No,
Caldwell.
If Cars was here, he would know.
They had
Caldwell
on Adventuring Academy, and they had asked, at what point do you start drawing characters, like your D&D characters? And he raised a very interesting point. He said that he doesn't draw a character until he has a good idea of how they act and their aura and what they represent and all sorts of stuff, you know, the image of the character. But he says he doesn't have a good image of a character until he knows how they aren't cool. And he said that everyone goes into D&D with this idea that my character is the badass. They're so cool in the XYZ ways, but you don't fully know the character until you start playing, and when other people and you yourself start making fun of your character and their downfalls and their flaws. He said until you know how your character is lame and not cool, then you know what, like, a full picture of your character. And I was like, yeah,
and
that's it.
That makes characters interesting too. And I guess the whole making fun of them not being cool wraps around to what I was gonna say, is that the number one way to have good role playing is being very comfortable around the people you play with, and also the people you play with being not assholes.
Yeah, because I you know, we talk about, like, merit of D&D being funny and being able to make fun of your character and stuff like that, and, you know, the downfalls and stuff like that. As somebody who historically rolls terribly, like 3/4 of the time, all the time, you know, I go into D&D because it's, yeah, like video games, things like that. You know, I want to
escapism,
be cooler than I am, because in real life I'm pretty fucking boring, honestly. So, but, like, you know, you get to play
that
stuff.
Iron Maiden t-shirt says otherwise, Austin. You're pretty rad.
Anyway, you know, you get to do fantastical things that you wouldn't be able to do. Like, you wouldn't even be able to fathom doing in real life, no matter how hard you tried. Like, come on, you can't fight a dragon in real life. Fuck. They don't even exist. You go fight a giant lizard, I guess. But that might not work out for you. You can't cast magic, blah blah, stuff like that. And I kind of go into it where it's like, I want to. Oh, did I freeze?
You did. We can still hear you though.
You can't have meaningful social interaction in real life.
But it's like, I want to feel cool. Because not to try to like go too much into like too many personal things, but like like I said, self-image is a bit of a problem. There's a lot of things going on there, and I kind of go to D&D to feel like I can do something, like really do something super significant, and it just comes to a point where like, I know we say that like being able to talk about how your character isn't cool and all that, and then being able to make fun of them and stuff like that, and like, yeah, to a point, yeah, I could probably tell you how all of my characters aren't cool, but I don't like to be reminded of it, I guess. I don't know, maybe I just take it a little too personally sometimes, but it happens so often because of my downfalls come from the fact that I'm just unlucky as a person and roll like trash all the time. So like none of the cool shit I try to do, like most of the time the cool shit I try to do doesn't work. Unless it's something that I don't have to roll for, because then I don't have to factor in my bad luck. and so it's like, like for example, one of my favorite characters that I talked about him earlier, Kairos. Kairos is a wizard with a neutral con modifier. So even at the point that we stopped playing those characters, level 13, even with the tough feat, he has like 70 hit points maybe. And it's just like, it was always, the joke was always that, Kairos is going to die this session. And like, it really was, like every time we had a combat, if it lasted for more than like 2 rounds, I was in danger. Like I was in trouble because I was going to get clapped like real hard. And it just, so many, just the way that the dice rolled half the time, it just like, it kind of makes you feel useless when you can't. It's like you have this character, you're like, okay, this is what I want, this is this character, this is what he can do, this is what this character is good at, and then you never are able to do it right, and then it's always something that's made fun of, and then you're like, what's the point of even playing this character? I feel like this is useless. My character is useless at the things that they're good at, like, and that just, it's like, kind of going back, you're like, it has something to do with the comfortability of the people that you play with and things like that. But also it's just like, I feel like there needs to also be a very, very, very aware temperance of that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, 100% we should make fun of our characters, because you can't be too serious about yourself, or you're gonna be the downer of the group. Like if you're too serious about yourself and your character, that's just gonna, I feel like that takes away after a certain point. Like that can take away from both your experience as well as the experience of people around you.
Because then you wouldn't have.
Yeah, because you're so focused on like, I have to be the best all the time, and then like I feel like that just feels like it'd be so draining. But
yeah,
it kind of just makes you feel like crap when you're never able to do anything right,
That's why I'm also a big proponent of like this style of campaign, because most of the people you're interacting with are normal people, very normal, and so you are way more likely to succeed on casting spells against them, because if they have a +0 to their save or negatives or whatever else. And similarly, as Austin and I have talked at length about before, it's like, even in gritty campaigns, having the encounters where on the players, like, that gives them the chance to shine and to feel like the badasses and heroes, and like they do the shit that they want to do and have fun and be successful. And
bro, those Dragonborn you guys fought when your characters were drunk off your ass, and like Lazarus was just like, and this one's dead, are you gonna run away now? And then they were, and they ain't got shit for wisdom, they ran.
Yeah.
It's like, or yeah, like the fucking hobgoblins at the Dragonborn.
yeah.
It's just like,
yeah, and I guess going back to what we were talking about, like, I think that the number one way to have fun role playing, like I said, is just to like have like an existing level of trust and communication with the people you play with, because to quote Adventuring Academy again, they did an episode with Erika Ishii where they talked about like being in a D&D group is a lot like being in a relationship, like dating or just a friendship relationship. Like I need to, like, we all need to have an understanding about what's acceptable to do to each other and like say to each other. Because for example, if like we're playing Sharn and Alan was like, "Hey guys, I really don't want to talk about this specific thing today," or like, "This kind of subject matter really bothers me, so I'd really like for us not to address it." So you just do it. You don't talk about it. And because we're friends, we have that mutual goodwill and understanding, I'm not going to bring up that thing that Alan asked me not to. Or it just, even if they don't ask you and you just notice, like you pick up on the fact that they don't like it and it makes them uncomfortable, you can just shy away from it. Because, I mean, it's harder to do when we're all faces on a screen and not like sitting in a room looking at each other. But it's still like, I try to do it whenever things happen. I try to like look at everybody and see how everyone is reacting to something, just because like I think it's important that everyone's having a good time in what we're doing. But like I said, it's just that mutual goodwill and understanding that like I'm not going to try to fuck over Austin's character. Austin's character's not trying to fuck me over, and you, the DM Logan, are not trying to fuck us over.
I was about
because
to mention,
the minute that you don't trust your DM to be fair, the game stops being fun.
Yes.
Because
if
I think that you are out to get me, then I lose any understanding of the campaign and I stop caring. Because if I think that you are out to get me and you are lying about roles and things, then I don't care anymore. Then there's no sanctity to this game we're playing. So
that was something we talked about after the last primary session, where it was very high stakes. And even though you are a bard with a, can roll an average of like a 28 on a persuasion check at minimum, like
there's some things you can't talk your way out of.
And like, because we've played together and you know how I DM and you trust me as the DM, you knew that whenever I was not asking for persuasion or deception rolls very often, that this was not something that even a 40 on a persuasion check could save, because you knew, like, you felt that even the best circumstance, you're still probably going to get in a lot of trouble and get arrested. Like, that's best circumstance. And so, like, we had, and I think all of us, because that was a very high stakes situation, that we all had an understanding as a group, like, even going back to being in Keena Button's apartment, we're having just a down chat with her, but it was a sort of high stakes conversation, and it started dawning on you, and then that one failed check, it was like, done now. Like, and that's not me being out to get you, that's us understanding, like, this is high stakes information.
That's just how it be.
Yeah, that's some high stakes stuff going on, and it's not going to be a long drawn out thing, and we all have understood that now. And
did that frustrate me when it happened? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Was I mad at you though? No. I was frustrated that I was like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Spending all these resources.
And
this vampire bitch.
And I think ultimately it's more fun for all of us, because there's like that chance of like, oh no.
Character development happens when you fail at things.
Exactly. Because
you learn the most when you fail at things too.
When you have to develop an entirely new plan because you fail at something, that's a lot to learn, because you're having to think on your feet. Oh, so much fun. Yes, mutual trust with everyone.
And that's something that I feel like that I took for granted for a really long time, and now it's like something that like I can't unfeel. Like whenever I play with people, there are times when I play with people and I'm just like, this is clearly not in mutual good faith right now. Like we're not all having a good time.
Grinding against each other.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't hurt,
and it's just like and kind of like what Austin was saying, with like wanting to feel good about what you're doing, like wanting to feel cool. Like if you're watching this, I'm gonna stand on my soapbox for a minute. Don't make other people feel bad about their characters. Don't make people feel lame. If people are having a moment, don't step on their moment. Shut up and listen to their moment. Let them have it. Because maybe that person needed that today. Just like Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Think about Bob. Do it for Bob.
Do it for Bob.
Some
They need a
people
win.
just need to feel cool in that moment. And if you insult someone's character, you are indirectly, but still insulting them. And as much as it's a game that's supposed to be fun.
Social game. It is a
Yes.
people game.
Just like if we were playing a board game around a table and you're playing Uno and you said, fuck you for playing that too. You're a dumb piece of shit and I hate you. It's just Uno. Don't be mean. Let people feel good.
All right, but
The
Uno
word
sucks,
being
though.
spoken in live to you, the people.
But seriously, I cannot tell you how horrible it feels to like come up with a character you're really excited about that like is nuanced and like has like a flaw, and then because of like that flaw, for example, your character's dumb. People will use that as a reason to like exclude you because like, oh, you're dumb, you don't get to participate in the party planning. Like, don't devalue people. Talking about Critical Role. For example, Grog is stupid.
Yeah.
But like Grog still gets to participate in conversations. They don't go, "Oh, you're so dumb. You can't read. Let the adults plan." Like that shit doesn't happen because they're friends. And I know that would be mean to Travis, even though he's playing a dumb character. It's a friend game. It is a social game. So you should be nice to your friends. And even if their character is dumb, include them. Even if they have the charisma of 7 and they're the character equivalent of a moldy toe, let them make decisions.
Or muted. I literally cannot speak. I'll just, just write stuff down.
Exactly. That was some of my favorite like character interactions, like Orfeo and Yamamori being like, "Yamamori, what do you think about this?" And you're like, "It's like good answer."
Sometimes writing things down, sometimes making weird gestures, sometimes it's like just 50% of the time it's just
Shrug. Be nice to your friends. That's the moral of this story.
Great notes. Do it for Bob.
Do it for Bob. Hashtag do it for Bob.
We should start that in the chat next week.
Well, I feel like that's probably already a thing from the most recent season or the previous season of Stranger Things.
That's Barb, not Bob.
No,
though.
Bob, like Bob Newby.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Beats the fuck out of
still
me.
great note to end on. Thank you, you two, for staying a little extra time. I had planned for 45 minutes, and we hit the 54-minute mark.
Sweet.
Soon to be 55. But we just get on a roll. We're passionate. We get sweaty about these things.
You put the three of us in a room to talk about something we care about, and we will literally talk forever.
Forever.
I could go for another like 30
Same.
minutes. If
Yeah,
I
I
needed to.
truly as
honestly,
well.
if I didn't have to go get up for class in the morning, I could just go on.
If I didn't have to pee like the Dickens, we'd keep talking too.
Hey, speaking of Dickens, have you seen the 2019 version of A Christmas Carol?
Thank you guys for
Don't
being
you dare.
here. We'll do this again in another 2 weeks. Hopefully we can get some fresh faces.
Tired of seeing my face.
I know, we're all tired of seeing all of our faces. But thank you guys.
I'm the executive producer, man. I gotta be here.
I actually promoed Rachel to executive producer, so I'm gonna have to.
What has Rachel done? Not mod.
All right, so have a wonderful night. Thank you for my lovely Patreon supporters, and I hope you enjoyed these little chats. We can continue these chats on Patreon and all sorts of stuff. And I hope to. Hopefully we can keep doing these for the next little while. See you again in 2 weeks. Alrighty. How do I transition? What's the next thing?
I don't know.
Shoo-ba-da-bop. Yeah, Jacob, hit us with the theme song.
Yeah, hold on. Ready?